Hey party people, it's Alex Miller, a Catman here. This video today is for concerned citizens of all stripes. I'm going to talk about facial recognition and its progress and its many sketchy travails. I've always really hated this term futurist. When people talk about Skynet AI taking over any civilization, I don't really see what the road to that is like. And there's plenty of stuff to talk about right now. I think facial recognition technology is really something to look at. If AI turns your life into a dystopian hellscape in any time soon, in a way that you can understand right now, I expect facial recognition will be the tip of the spear. So I have one relatively new story and one old one, and then I want to talk about why I don't really think these problems in a way can be fixed, and there's a lot of subtlety here about what our society is like and why we maybe shouldn't even want this technology. All right, in December, Rite Aid was banned by the Federal Trade Commission from using facial recognition technology in its stores. Rite Aid was using a technology on its cameras to recognize faces and flag people that had some history of problematic behavior or shoplifting record. Just in general, identify your face and figure out who you are, and then use that information to take a guess at who is trying to steal things. In this particular case, the problem passes through that the tech doesn't work perfectly. I should add here, if you've worked in this area, you know that nothing gets it right every time. And I think people that haven't had these experiences are a little too excited about these technologies with a sort of implicit view in their mind that it's going to always work. And then you have to think through as well, in the cases where it doesn't work correctly, how monstrous and embarrassing is that going to be? So one thing I think is really worth worrying about from an ethical standpoint, from a standpoint of not looking like a jerk, from a standpoint of not getting sued, from a standpoint of not getting murdered by the FTC, is algorithmic bias. When these things get it wrong, do they get it wrong in some sort of particular systematic way? And in the Rite Aid case, their facial recognition technology had a tendency to just really always think that women and people of color were shoplifting. And a lot of people who had not done anything wrong just took a lot of painful grief from the staff of various Rite Aids because the facial recognition technology decided that they were some kind of bad guy. And this is bigotry. This is robot bigotry in a way. You know, if a person did it, you just mad at people for shoplifting because they're a woman of color. That's pretty monstrous. And so Rite Aid, the corporation, engaged in this bigoted behavior. It was their robot, but Rite Aid is responsible for that. So this is a bad time for Rite Aid. They've at least got an ugly black eye. The FTC banned them from using facial recognition technology for 5 years, and they sure better be careful when they conceivably start using it again a half decade from now. So that's a story about the technology not working as well as it would want. I would allege even if you did things perfectly, it's kind of scary still and ugly what this technology might do, how it might make our society function. I think a lot about, there's a Chinese proverb I like. I think it's a Chinese proverb. If someone tells me better, I'm sorry, but the mountains are tall and the emperor is far away. What does this mean? Well, the emperor has this autocratic power over me. in theory, but realistically, I have some freedom because I'm just some guy. The Emperor is not chasing me around, doesn't have capability to chase me around. A whole lot of things in our society about power, which especially Americans have a lot of anxiety about power and authority, are sort of contextualized through whatever's on paper. Well, kind of not quite that much is what people experience day to day. And a really scary thing about AI that I think could be a real whirlwind of evil is if power is suddenly able to exercise itself as hard as it is allowed to on paper, that's a pretty weird, nasty world. So I'm going to review an example I've made videos about before. Madison Square Garden in New York City has one of these facial recognition systems. The people at the top at Madison Square Garden were not just flagging, purse snatchers, etc., but they started flagging just anybody that works at a law firm that is involved in litigation against Madison Square Garden. And so once again, I encourage you to think about the potential nightmarish experiences of everyday people. One which is well publicized is a woman is trying to go to a show with her daughter. She's a lawyer. As far as I know, reading the story, she's in good standing. She's never broken the law. She's not, in a kind of general sense, a troublemaker. Security comes out and treats her like a criminal and drags her off, separates her from her child. She just works for a law firm that was suing Madison Square Garden about something. That's a really nightmarish experience. Targeting a person that didn't do anything wrong. And also, I would say this is vengeful behavior from Madison Square Garden. Returning to my sort of society-wide social story about this, all these technologies help people exercise power, and there's a lot of people that are going to do ugly things with it. To recap, maybe kind of put my two stories together. I don't buy any of the Skynet stuff personally. Humans are plenty good at being nasty to each other. Do we really need help? And honestly, I would wager that as often as these facial recognition technologies are used to flag criminals and protect people, they're used by power and authority to be nasty and manipulative and vengeful towards whoever they feel like doing it to. So the mountains are tall and the emperor is far away. There's a lot that's nice about this, I think, at least, especially from an American ideological, political perspective of, well, I wanted to have freedom. I didn't want to live my life dancing for the pleasure of the emperor. And facial recognition technology potentially makes this proverb not true and not wise anymore. And that's pretty scary. So even, in story one, it's about what's not working very well, and that's a problem. You pick up a new problem as you make it work better. And I think just in general, it's a pretty scary area. People are working on regulating it, but it's been slow. If anything resonates with you about these stories, I think it's really something to watch and maybe get in touch with your congressman or similar advocacy, because it's more and more out there. It's more and more being applied in an aggressive way. And I would say it's systematically producing ugly experiences for people that really don't deserve to have them.